We put on the stream right here for Instagram. All right. So, like I said, Cardinals lose the Seahawks 23-20, and man, just such a heartbreaker of a loss. There's no other way to explain it. You play 3 quarters of horrible football, and I don't mean to say horrible. It just wasn't the football that you imagined, right? It was a football that and a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people online, in the comments, stuff like that, were talking about, hey, I hope the Cardinals, they don't show out like how they were the first 2 weeks, right? Showing off flat, not able to score points, having the defense, they had to bail them out a lot of times. You didn't want that to happen in the first half, in the first game to start off a game, especially at home, especially on prime time Thursday night football. This is a game everyone was watching today. Everyone, the whole world's watching. Whoever loves football watching Thursday night game, and you first half you stunk the bed. There's no other way to put it. You stunk. There wasn't any good way to put it. There wasn't any way to go about it. You just sucked. Offensively, it was horrible. You had the same mishaps, drops. Marvin, looks like he stopped on a route, and then Kyler is going to throw it to him if he would have kept on running. But ultimately, that turned into an interception for Kyler. Luckily, for whatever way, the football gods looked down on us and they gave us a fumble right after that interception, and it just wasn't enough. After that, you go to Marvin again. That causes a second interception where he's just runs a little slant route, can't catch the ball, starts fumbling it, starts throwing it up in the air, and then just basically gives it to the linebacker, to the Seattle's linebacker right there. And it just seems like after the first half ended, it seemed like this game was going to be out of hands. It was going to be out of reach, and it was looking like it was going to be maybe a 30-point deficit by the time you guys were done. Um, the defense played great, like they always do. I mean, being down your top 3 to 4 corners with Will Johnson, with Starling Thomas, with Sean Murphy Bunting. You guys don't like that name, but he was going to be one of the top corners in this game if he didn't get hurt. I mean, if the Cardinals would have cut him, but I mean, he would have been better than what you had out there right now on certain occasions, and also just having people in and out of the lineup. I know Calais was gone for a little bit. You had Jordan Birch out for a little bit, but other than that, I mean, the defense played amazing. Defense played great. Um, yeah, I mean, you can't say much else on that defense. They're playing their hearts out. It seems like Nick Rallis and Jonathan Gannon has them going, and they're playing probably as best football as you can. The only thing you can maybe say about the defense is maybe creating more turnovers, but I think that's going to come along when hopefully Garrett Williams come back. Hopefully Will Johnson comes back next week after this 10-day little break, and you're able to get more of those game changing type of plays. Um, yeah, the one thing I did want to talk about that's just been happening the last couple of 3 weeks is the offense just overall. The offensive line just sucks. Straight out, flat out, offensive line sucks. And I don't know if it's you know uh well Justin Fry, he's not able to come in and coach the offensive line, or if it's Drew Petzing, he's not able to coach him up, or if just like the players suck. I mean, there's only one new person in there that wasn't in there last year for most of the year, and it's Isaiah Adams. I think he should be a solid player. He looked good in the preseason, but other than that, he just hasn't been that type of guy. It's that interior offensive line. Because I tell you, we have some great tackles. Whoever's working on the tackles, they know how to coach tackles. The Ohio State offensive lineman, he knows how to coach tackles. Paris is playing great. I think he did let up a little. He did have a holding call. He did let up a pressure inside where Kyler. I think he let up a sack where Kyler couldn't spin out of it. But other than that, um, I just don't see this interior offensive line playing great. Froholt, he's a center. He's playing just up to his standard. He was never a great, amazing, elite player like how Paris Johnson could be, or how Will Hernandez was before he got hurt. He was never up to that level. He was just a solid starting center. Right? Nothing more, nothing less. He was just a solid starting center. I think he's doing the same thing right now, a solid center. Um, Other than that, Left guard, Evan Brown, he's not playing great. Like I said, Isaiah Adams, I think he has one of the worst offensive, PFF grades that's out there right now. I think he's in the 30s or something ridiculous like that. This whole offensive line isn't playing well. Paris, he has an injury. He has that knee injury. I don't know how severe it is. He looked great today. He wasn't in the game last week. Right tackle Jonah Williams, he's playing all right, I guess. Not too much too crazy from that side. Honestly, at this point, I'd probably put in Kelvin Beachum at right tackle instead of Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams can't really do anything at this point. He was bad to start off the year last year. I know against Buffalo and then against what was it, the Rams last year. He wasn't so hot, wasn't so great. I mean, my bad, the Rams. He came in later in the year and wasn't great against Buffalo. He, I don't want to say anything bad, but he got kind of bailed out because of the injury. He was lost for most of the season, came back I think the final two games or something like that, and then still was kind of wobbly. And you kind of just chalk that up to him coming back from injury from his injury. And I think at this point, you just got to start Kelvin Beachum at right tackle. I think last week, despite what PFF says, I think he played a great game. Um, Other than that, I think that's probably the one change you can make right now. Will Hernandez, I know I brought it up, he's not coming back anytime soon. And even if he comes back, that just he's coming back from injury. You don't know how well he's gonna play. I think he's still under that 1 year mark for. I think he injured it maybe week 4 or 5 last year against San Francisco. So you don't know how he's going along with his rehab. He's questionable this week. He was questionable last week with that knee injury. So I don't know if he's actually able. In the off season, you saw him doing some, I think, UFC stuff or some, video content stuff online. He looked great. He looked solid. It looked like that knee wasn't bothering him. So hopefully, when he comes back, fully healthy. I don't want to rush him back, especially just because the deal he got is a 1 year deal. You don't want him to mess up and just be out another offseason. I'd rather him come back. I think that's what this coaching staff really does for injured players. They wait for them to come back, and let them take their time to come back. So happened with Kyler, happening with BJ Ojolari right now. Happened, I think, is Will Johnson right now too. Happened with Darius Robinson last year. So letting them come back is great, but I don't think he's gonna change his interior offensive line because you still have a Cone in Evan Brown, and Fro hopefully can help him out. Hopefully, if he gets more help on his right side instead of Isaiah Adams, maybe with Will Hernandez in there, that could change something. But that right side of the offensive line, I think, definitely needs a change. Kelvin Beachum, I think you just start him next week. He played great against Nick Bosa the times he was in, and you just got to roll with that at that point. Um, so yeah, I think that's one of the main things that's hurting this offense. Um, I don't think it's Kyler right now. No matter, despite what you guys might say, I don't think Kyler is the main guy that's gonna hurt this offense. He's not. It hurts me to say it because I've been a Kyler guy since he was drafted. I know I've been critical of him over the years, but I think he's not that number one overall pick that's gonna come in and save a franchise. Um, but he's not the reason why we're losing right now, no, despite what you guys say. He's a solid quarterback. He's above average. I'll put him at that. There's times where he can play in like the top, 8 of quarterbacks in the NFL. He can tap into that, but it's not consistently. So I believe he's somewhere in that around 10, give or take a few spots here and there. But I believe he's in that 10 to 12 range right now. And ultimately, you can win games. You could go to playoffs with a guy like that. Maybe if the teams around him is great, you could win a Super Bowl with him. But I mean, I do believe you could win a Super Bowl with Kyler Murray. But he's not the reason we're losing right now. I don't know why people are saying that. Maybe it's because he is an easy target. He is a quarterback, and with all the praise quarterbacks get, he's going to get a lot of the hate. So that's what comes with the territory. Um, Ultimately, I think it starts with, and I say it a bunch, Drew Petzing. I think he is the main guy that has to change his ways. I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. He has to be the guy that adjusts his offense to the players that he has. It can't be anything like, hey, this is my offense. It's going to be a square peg, and you're around. It's going to be a square hole. A round peg's going to try and just fit into it. It's not going to work like that. Drew Petzing has to mold what he does offensively, mold what he does in the run game, in the pass game, and change it to help fix his players. You know, besides that fourth quarter, besides those two drives at the end where it just looked like completely different offense, he everyone's having miscues, right? The only person that isn't having miscues is Trey McBride. And I think because the offense is catered to a tight end like him, obviously he's the best tight end in the league, I believe. In terms of blocking and passing and just everything overall, I think he's the best tight end. Yeah, he's going to be great in this offense because his offense caters to tight ends. But at the same time, you have a 4 overall pick in last year's draft that's not having the season, not having even close to the season that he was having even last year. And people were saying last year's season was disappointing. So he's not playing great. Michael Wilson wasn't playing great for a little bit. Zay Jones, before he was in concussion protocol, he wasn't playing great either. So I think ultimately you have to change the way these wide receivers are attacking. Maybe it's too much on their plate. Maybe Marv has too much on his plate and he's just thinking way too much out there. And that's a reason why he may be slowing down. It's maybe a reason why he was having the drops. Could be a reason why Michael Wilson has some drops. These running backs out of the backfield, when they can try and catch, they have drops. Um, Things like that ultimately I think falls on coaching. Um, and I think Drew Petzing has to change whatever we did in the fourth quarter. I mean, I watched. That's why the stream is a little bit late, is because I watched Gannon's press conference. I watched Kyler's press conference just to see what they both thought. And Gannon, as a great leader, he said everything was his fault, which, I commend him for that, for saying, whatever problems you guys have, it starts with coaching, and the coaching starts with him first. I get it. He's a great leader. That's what you're supposed to say in those press conferences, especially after the game. But overall, I think the comments from Kyler Murray, if you guys have a chance, go watch it, after the live stream. But he said that fourth quarter, just Petzing was in a groove offensively. He didn't say Petzing specifically, but he said the play calling. The play calling was in a groove that fourth quarter, and that's how they were able to come back. And I think whether it was because you were down by 2 scores, it was because you're trying to win a division game, because you're fighting for your job, you're calling for your job, play calling for your job. Whatever that little bit that you had, whatever was in there, you got to just stick with it and just keep it going for the next, until the bye week. And then you can really maybe adjust, tweak some things. But whatever's in that playbook for that fourth quarter, keep it up. Because that's what gave, the people at the stadium, that's what gave them energy. You guys saw before the second quarter ended when I think they punted it, or they just let the time run off the clock to go into halftime. The boos are loud. I heard it from the broadcast. People on Twitter who are at the game, they heard it everywhere. And I think ultimately that just showed, it showed no one's happy with this offense. And I even tweeted it out there that even the broadcast, right? Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, they both understood, hey, no one's excited about this offense. They even said it like, it's getting pretty hot in Arizona in terms of this offense and of the play calling. Everyone sees it. It's a big thing. I'm sure, Drew Petzing hears about it. They hear about everything, despite what they say. Shout out the outside noise. They hear about it. They know about it. Same thing with Gannon. Even though he say, everyone's locked in, you're gonna hear it. It's difficult in this day and age to not hear the noise that's coming out. I'm sure Kyler, he's in the media. I think he's better now than he was in the past. I think, in maybe the first 2 or 3 years, he would have said something out in the media, but now, he understands how that backfires and how that looks at him, and he has a very, he's in that gray area where one little comment, one little, bad body language, it could make him, the bad guy. So he's doing great right now in terms of saying, hey, we just got to focus on what we got to focus on, stuff like that. But, I'm sure the offense is hearing about it, whether it's the pass game coordinator, whether it's Drew Petzing, whether it's the new offensive line coach, whoever it is, the receivers, the receiving coach, no matter who it is, they hear about it. and and I think, whatever you could find right there, whatever you find from that fourth quarter, just incorporate it throughout the game. I'm not saying change your whole identity, because I do believe ultimately the run game does work, and that this type of offense can work. You just got to incorporate more passing, right? You saw second quarter, when Kyler almost threw another interception to, I think it was Trey McBride. Trey McBride had an in route. Um, the safety, I believe, is Jordan Love. Or, no, 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 something Love, and he was, he's a deep safety, right? They're playing, cover three, cover two. I forgot what it was. He was backpedaling, but he had his man on he was manned up on Trey McBride. He was reading Trey, and he wasn't really worried about, going past his 13 to 15 yards where he started. He backpedaled maybe two times and kind of waited to see what McBride would do. Saw the breaking route, and he just jumped it, because these safety, these corners, they're not afraid of anything this Cardinals offense does over the top, which is it's disheartening to say, but that's just the reality of what it is. Um, Outside of that, I think, like I said, one, the play calling has to change. I think that's a given. Offensive line has to play better. I don't know what it is. Like, I mean, I already went over it again, but something in that interior offensive line has to change, because Kyler, they're blitzing up the middle, they're forcing up the middle, and throughout his whole career has been his weakness. Interior pressure. I believe the last 2 years they've had great interior offensive line play, and I think that's helped push this offense a little bit more. But I think they both go kind of hand in hand, where Kyler doesn't have enough time. He's rushing through his reads. If I were to put a percentage on it, I'd probably say 40% Drew Petzing. I'd say 30% the offensive line, because the offensive line is just horrible right now. There's no way around it. And then 20% Kyler Murray and 10% the receivers. I think that's where I put it. I know it's kind of a weird breakdown with the four, but that's how to put it. Majority is Drew Petzing. A little bit less is the offensive line, because I do believe if the way Drew Petzing is calling it, I don't think he's changed from the past few years. This offensive line does suck right now, so the runs are just not working, and you can't build off of the runs. I do believe that. Um, and then outside of that, Kyler Murray, I do think he just, even though I think he's coached this way, I think he just runs through his progression so quickly. Um, he sees, especially in the shotgun. I think Kurt Warner had it great. If you guys listen to the PHNX Cardinals podcast, he was on there, I think, this past week on Tuesday or Wednesday, and he had a great kind of breakdown of Kyler Murray. And he's tweeted out the same thing too, where with athletic quarterbacks, you're in that gray area of, do I stay in the pocket and maybe risk a sack, or do I use my God-given athletic ability to try and make a play out of something, to try and scramble out, to try and scramble forward and get a few yards, instead of waiting for the plays to develop when the pocket is crumbling on you. So you have that. I think that, if Kyler can kind of slow it down, like I said, his breakdown of how shotgun and under center works, I'm not a quarterback, so I'm not going to try and re-say, trying to explain what he said, but ultimately he said, on a three-step drop back, that's for the quicker ones. Once you get out of your hitch, you have your guys boom, 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 because everything's timing, for offenses. 5 step, seven, 9 step, whatever it is, whatever drop back it is, it's for different routes and different levels. So if you're waiting for a deep route, in a shotgun, the football just comes straight towards you. You maybe have a 2 or 3 step drop back, and then you see what's happening. So maybe he doesn't give the receivers the offense time to develop, but ultimately I think that's a part of his game that he could fix, and just maybe sticking with it, sticking in the pocket, because I don't think he is a short quarterback, we all know, but I don't think it's anything too crazy where he can't stand in the pocket. I see him stand in the pocket multiple times in the NFL. In college, he had a monster offensive line. He was able to stay in the pocket because he had a good offensive line. I think that's what you need, especially not just with smaller quarterbacks, with quarterbacks in general. You just need great offensive line, and just we're not getting that right now. And then with the receivers too, I believe the receivers, they do got to take an accountability, just the drops. Um, Zay Jones last week had a drop. I think Michael Wilson, has, his fair share of mishaps too. Same thing with Trey McBride. Sometimes they're not on the same page, but that's maybe like once in a blue moon. And then going back to Marv, he probably makes up a lot of that 10% or whatever I said it was for receivers, where he just, I don't know, maybe he doesn't understand the playbook too much. Like I said a little while ago, maybe you have too much on his plate where he's just thinking about so much as a receiver, and he's not able to just go out there and play freely. You guys see it if you guys watch the all 22, or just go rewatch the game if you guys can, and even the highlights, even running plays. You could just keep your eye on Marv, and you see he doesn't give effort whenever it's a run play. And as a DB, if you see a receiver just not getting effort, you're just like, okay, this guy's not getting the ball. Let me see where the ball's actually going. Because my half, he's not getting the ball. He's half-assing his route. He's half-assing his run. And let me go see where the ball is actually going to go. And once he does play hard, that's when they're just, okay, let me get on my toes. Let me see where this ball is going because it might go to me because this guy's playing hard. And, he's having a trend of that, which isn't good. That effort needs to be there, play in and play out. That you can't take no plays off. If you're going to be like that, and if you're truly tired, have someone else going for you, right? Why are you going to be out there in a run play if you're just not going to run block it as a receiver? And we've heard it from Gannon and Petzing that this offense, to be a receiver, we heard it from Michael Wilson too. To be a receiver in this offense, you have to run block. You have to be willing to run block. And I think Marv can do it. He's a big guy, 6'4", 220. He can run block. Same thing with Michael Wilson. He loves a run block. That's something that has to change. And then you go into halftime. Like I said, you hear the boos. In one of the interviews before halftime, Jonathan Gannon, he talks about just not enough explosives, not enough in the run game. Everyone has to play better. He just seemed mad going into halftime, and whatever speech he gave, I don't know what happened. Third quarter, yeah, I mean, third quarter they came out, they played kind of flat too. Wasn't anything too crazy. I think that they maybe got a field goal at the end of the third quarter. That's about it. Other than that, um, yeah, that third quarter was just kind of garbage. No one really scored. I think the Seahawks maybe scored at the very end, but at that point you're down by 2 scores, and this fourth quarter, everything just came alive. Everything just started clicking, and as a Cardinals fan, you think you see this game and you understand, hey, if this is the fourth quarter, if this fourth quarter is what your team could look like, how come we don't look like that every game, every quarter? The passes to Marv, he finally was able to catch a ball, right? That's great. Finally, he knows what these are. He knows what these are. He knows what his hands are. He was able to catch the ball. He even that first one, it was just a little dump off route, and he was able to just get out of bounds on the right side of the field. Other than that, he did a nice little out route, able to toe tap it in, and then he had a good little 15-yard catch down the sideline where he was able to body catch it, which isn't good. The body catches that's a completely other thing that he has to take care of. But the body catches, he was great on that. And then ultimately he had his 16-yard touchdown. When he mossed Devon Witherspoon, right? That was a great play. The whole sequence, that whole Marv in that drive, in those two drives in that fourth quarter was great. He looked like the fourth overall pick that we all envisioned. And he had what I believe it was, here, I can look it up right here. Marv had 6 catches for 66 yards and 1 touchdown. So that was great. He played amazing. Other than that, Michael Wilson, he had a one-handed, just crazy reception on fourth down. It looked like he was just running a quick out, and then Kyler threw it to him. He whipped his head around, wasn't able to see it. He saw it last second, just threw his hand out and was able to make the catch, which is amazing, right? That catch, one of the best catches. I mean, you guys see, I put it on the YouTube thumbnail. That was a great catch. He wasn't looking at it. He just just at that point, it's just instincts, right? You're just going back to what what you've been practicing, what you've been doing your whole life, catching the football. Couldn't see it, knew it kind of flew by him, caught it with the one hand, got the fourth down stop. At that point, I'm jumping up and down, I'm screaming, grab my hair, I'm hyped right there at that point. Greg Dortch, man, like the Dortch, the human Dortch. He played great. I'm getting hyped up just thinking about it all over again. He was playing great. He was playing amazing, right? And I truly believe he's one of the most electric playmakers that we have that we refuse to lose. You guys remember a few years ago, Chase Edmonds, and years before that, John Brown. As soon as the ball hit their hands, they were just electric with the ball in the field, especially in open field. They're just at that point, no matter how tall you are, no matter how strong you are, no matter how fast you are, it's just being a football player at that point. You understand, hey, have the ball in my hands, whether it's first, second, third down, fourth down. Let me go make a play. Let me get as many yards as I can because I don't know when I'm gonna get this ball again. And you saw it, little quick slant to Dortch. He scrambles up the field for maybe like 8 yards. Amazing play. Doesn't go down after the first sign of contact. He's just churning his legs in and out. Reminds me of a mini James Conner. He's just going through. He's not stopping he doesn't stop his legs whenever he gets the ball, and that's great. Um, and then Demercado, that last touchdown that we had, flashbacks from last week, right? Like just flashbacks where, last week, same exact play to kind of just help the offense late in the game. I think it was the fourth quarter. He drops it. Another. I think that would have been a go-ahead touchdown. He drops it. Same play. Same play happens. Same guy, Demercado. I know, the offense. This offense loves him. Other than Michael Carter, another electric guy, I think is another Greg Dortch. Where as soon as the ball gets in his hands, he plays great. He plays amazing. He gets the ball, boom, breaks the tackle, just beats the other guy to the pylon, runs it in, and at that point, you're just hyped. There's about 20, 30 seconds left in the play. No, 20 seconds left in the game. Chad Ryland hits the game. Hits the extra point. We go up. We tie the game, and at that point, you're like, okay, we have one timeout left. We just gotta kick this, play great defense. Hopefully the defense steps up. As a Cardinals fan, you guys already know there's so many scenarios going through your head. Whether it's, man, are we gonna let up a big return in this kickoff? And the defense gonna be able to have one last stand, and just maybe get a sack, get an interception, close out this game. We've been relying on the defense for the past 3 weeks. Give us just one more drive to stop us, right? You're thinking, what's going to happen? They have 2 timeouts. You have 1 timeout, 20 seconds left. It looks like, the needle sway to the Cardinal side. We have all the momentum. I know some of you guys out there talked about going for 2. Going for 2 didn't really matter at that point. In my eyes, I know maybe analytics might say something else, but ultimately it just, go for 1. You have all the momentum, all the advantage. Stadium's hype, stadium's cheering now for every time Marv makes a catch. Complete swing from the first half. It's like a new team came out from the first 3 quarters to that fourth quarter. A new team just walked on the field, new offense, and they played amazing. So, 22 seconds left. Chad Ryland kicks it. From the broadcast, you're like, what is this kick? You see maybe a squib kick, barely goes off over your own kickoff team, barely goes over the Seahawks kickoff team, and then you're just thinking to yourself, okay, maybe a squib kick, and then the announcers start talking about, was it in the zone to catch? In the back of your head, just like, no effing way, right? No way this is about to happen right now. Where they talk about the scenarios. Well, if it's not in the area to play, if it's not in the kick area to play, then they'll get at the 40. You're thinking the 40. These new kickoff rules, they're insane. Where Chad Ryland, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was Jeff Rogers, our special teams coordinator. I don't know if it was his call. I don't know if it was Jonathan Gannon's call. I don't know whose call it was to do a squib kick. But Chad Ryland, he just didn't get enough juice in it. He didn't get enough kick into it. He missed the landing zone or the return zone by about 2 yards. 2 yards too soon. It hits, I believe it hits the, if I'm not mistaken, the 37 or the 32. I forget where the line is. It hits 2 yards before, bounces in. So of course, Cardinals luck. They the Seahawks get the ball, not the 20, not the 35, where a kickback normally is at the 40. So they just need about 15 yards to get into field goal range. At that point, you're just like, damn, 15 yards. This defense has been playing great. It's been a lot of bend, don't break. Um, they have 2 timeouts. Cardinals have a timeout, and you're just sweating at that point. I know I was sweating. Hands around my head. I'm looking all over the place. I'm fearing right now for my life. And we go into defense runs onto the field. You're just hoping, hey, Calais Campbell, give us one more special play, old man, grandpa. Come on, let's get this sack, do something. Let's nothing deep. First play in defense, they're playing prevent defense. The corners are playing, about 25 yards off the receivers. And then Seattle calls a run play. They stop it. You feel great. 1 down, 3 more to go. They call another play. I forget what that second play was. The third play, Max Melton, my guy, he's been up and down. He shouldn't be the number 1 corner, right? Injuries to Starling, injuries to Garrett Williams, injuries to Will Johnson. He's just out there because we're on our 4th corner. I mean, it doesn't matter. He should be able to step up. He's a 2nd-round pick. He should be able to step up. But unfortunately, he was playing solid all game. He lets up about what was it, a 13? You guys could tell me on Instagram Live right here. It was maybe the a 16-yard pass he led up to Jackson Smith, and at that point you're just wondering, hey, was he in bounds? He wasn't in bounds. He was in bounds. They hurry it up and review. He's on the sidelines. It was in bounds. They get their timeout back. There's about 12 seconds left in the play clock. They're already in field goal range, and you're just like, man, you're just hoping for a miracle at that point. You're hoping for Jason Myers to miss the kick again. And, in a weird sense, you kind of feel like since he missed it before, about same field goal range, he might be able to miss it again. You see him come out, sniff the smelling salts, and you're just like, damn, is this how we are? Is this how we're going to go down as a Cardinals fan? Cardinals team, watching the game is just so heartbreaking. That's the way you end the game after such a great 4th quarter where this offense, came alive. Everyone's cheering, everyone's feeling great. That's how you lose the game, off of a 54-yard kick to steal the game. And ultimately, if it wasn't on the left hash, I'm telling you, that kick would have gone out. That would have been a missed kick if he wasn't on left hash, because he kicked it. It started, wiggling. It wanted to go out. If it was maybe an extra 5 yards, if they were able to stop Charbonnet or Kenneth Walker instead of giving him an extra 5 yards, if they were able to just be a little bit backer or maybe on the right hash, I'm sure it would have been a missed kick. He had no confidence. I could tell you that, just seeing Jason Myers, look in his eyes, he just had it. He wanted to miss it so bad, but he was lucky. He was 5 yards closer, and he was on the left hash. He was so lucky, and that's how the Cardinals lose the game. Like I said, heartbreaking. I don't believe, it kind of low key. It is Chad Ryland's fault, because he should just put a little more on it, right? I think that was a good play. It caught me off guard. I'm sure it caught Seattle off guard. They weren't expecting that because their 2 returners were at the 10-yard line. It would have been a great play, but he just needed to put a little more on it. He kicked it maybe just a little bit too low, or at that point you just kick it out the end zone and let your defense, go make a stop like how they normally would. I think the defense played great, especially on that last drive. They only gave up 15 yards. I mean, they were playing great. They were playing their butts off, especially for being out there so long. Because as you guys know, that 2nd quarter, that 3rd quarter wasn't looking too hot. The defense, they just couldn't catch a break for whatever reason. The defense would go out, bend, don't break, get a stop them before field goal range. They had to punt it away. And then there goes the Cardinals offense, 3 and out. No time wasted. It was just a pass, missed pass, a draw, running back draw. You guys know how the Drew Petzing offense works. Another run play, and then here we go, punting it away. So defense, I think, was gassed at that point. Which, I mean, they're NFL players. They're the professionals getting paid. They're getting paid to play their sport. They should be able to last a full 4 quarters of football and then some if you go into overtime. But hats off to the offense. I mean, to the defense. They played great. Hats off, to Seattle. They stayed in there, and ultimately they just, they're just a better team. I don't think roster wise they're a better team. I do believe the Cardinals overall have a better roster, especially when they're healthy. I know someone put it in the chat that the Cardinals are one of the highest teams, the most injury reserve / pup players, and that's it's just tough to it's tough to deal with all these injuries, especially when it's targeting one specific room, like the cornerback room. If Garrett Williams was out there, I could tell you Jackson Smith probably stays silent for the whole game. If Will Johnson is out there, I could tell you, I could guarantee it probably that they're not getting those outside plays, those outside deep plays. That sucks. That is what it is. Don't even get me started on why your $90 million edge rusher Josh Sweat is playing coverage, fucking 20 yards down the field, and against the receiver. I don't know why that gave me flashbacks for some of you guys that have been here. That gave me flashbacks to the Cliff Kingsbury era, where it was super early in his tenure, where they had. I don't think it was him. I think it was. I don't know who. Yeah, no. It was Steve Wilkes. It was Steve Wilkes who put Chandler Jones in coverage against Christian McCaffrey. This was prime Christian McCaffrey. That's when he first came to the 49ers. That when he put him into coverage, you're late in the fourth quarter, you got to have it. You put your best edge rusher. This one when Terrell Suggs, that fat ass, was on the team. You put Chandler Jones, your best edge pass rusher. You put him in coverage against Christian McCaffrey, and he just gets routed up. It's Christian McCaffrey. It's prime Christian McCaffrey, one of the best receiving backs we've had this generation, against 6'5", 275, 285 Chandler Jones. That was just a touchdown waiting to happen. He just walks it in. Cardinals lose that game on the road against the 49ers. You guys remember that. That just gave me flashbacks of, I don't know why our edge rushers are deep into coverage like that. I understand maybe a little, cover the flats, whatever that is, or maybe contain. But why are you 15? Why are you 20 yards down the field? That is what it is. That's the only bad play from Nick Rallis, from what I remember right now in this game. Yeah, defense played great like they always do. I believe player. Kyler played great. I don't think he played horrible. I don't think he played amazing. He had he had 2 legacy drives, right? The 2 touchdowns, he had to have it in the fourth quarter. He was able to make it. It looked like a Kyler legacy game about to happen, and ultimately he just wasn't able to get it done. That sucks. This offensive line, dog water. I don't know how you change it. Like I said, the one thing that you can do to ultimately help out is put Kelvin Beachum in the lineup, put him at right tackle, see what he could do. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know how you change it. Will Hernandez, I think he's still maybe a few weeks out from playing. I don't even know if he's a few weeks out, from playing good. I think you probably see after the bye week, he's probably going to feel like himself. But, you see how he is. Maybe he slides in at right guard and kind of just take that spot from Isaiah Adams. Help Isaiah Adams maybe sit a little bit. Other than that, yeah, that's the game. Unfortunate life of a Cardinals fan. Not much to say there. Like I said, shout out to the Seahawks. I guess they played great. We haven't beat them in 3 years, in 4 years. We're 8-0 against them. So that just that sucks. This game you could have had it. Even if you were to add maybe one drive like the fourth quarter, in any other quarter, we win the game, right? Other than that, I mean, let's go through the comments, see what you guys are talking about. Let's see what this Instagram Live is talking about, because unfortunately, my people on Twitter, all 9 of you guys, I appreciate you guys showing up. All 10 of you guys on Instagram Live, all you guys on YouTube, I appreciate everyone for showing up. Unfortunately for the Twitter people, I cannot see the comments. I don't know what there's no comments right now. I got to change that up a little bit. If you guys do see the post, go and comment under, tweet me. I'll be able to look at the tweets right now. But yeah, we're probably going to go off of the Instagram comments right now. You guys have anything you guys want to say? Um, Let me see. Let me scroll back a little bit. You guys are talking to each other. Cards fan from Germany here. Woke up with a bit of a broken heart today. It sucks. I don't know if you watched the game, Elmo, but it was a tough one. If you want to have a fun time, watch the fourth quarter before it gets under 20 seconds. If you watch the game, I'm glad you're awake. I'm glad you're here supporting. But yeah, it was just a tough game. Um, Missing Tyrann Mathieu right now. Yeah, that to go off on a little tangent here. Um, that Buda Baker, those two drives where he had that defensive pass interference, you could tell he kind of panicked. He panicked in that play. I think it was maybe to Jackson Smith, or I don't know who it was. Their number 18, I forget his name. I think he's a rookie. He's a tall guy. Solid receiver, but he panicked. He wasn't even looking at the ball. He was, you guys know how I feel about Buda Baker. I've been kind of public on it on Twitter, on X, where he's a great run defender. He's a great run stopper. He's a great box safety, but in coverage, he stinks. He stinks, and unfortunately, that's just what it is. And you guys saw it. It happens a lot. I don't think I've really seen a Buda Baker, pass breakup, a really great one, other than maybe someone throwing it deep, someone throwing it over. But it was just a bad play. And of course, it's in the end zone. They get the ball at the 1, and at that point, you're just, Zach Charbonnet. He just runs it in. After a few tries at the 1 yard line, more times than not, he's gonna get it in. He's gonna make it in. So yeah, I think you just got to play Buda as basically an extra linebacker at that point. I would say your main guys, obviously right now with the defensive backs, they're they're injured right now, so you're trying to move the puzzle pieces all over the place. Excuse me, and you have to play him in coverage. Unfortunately, but once we do get healthy, once Will Johnson comes back, and everyone kind of settles in their place, I believe, play Rabbit, play Jalen Thompson, as the two deep safeties, play Buda close to the box, and let Max Mellon into the into the slot, or Jalen Thompson, one of those two. They play a whole lot better than Buda does in coverage, and that's unfortunately just what it is. He's not Tyrann Mathieu in coverage, but he could help hell in the run game, right? He could get a bunch of tackles for loss, but he just can't do anything else, which sucks right now. So yeah, let me see what else you guys are talking about. He was coming in flat, and then when Sam scrambled, the tight end abandoned the flat, and Sweat had to chase him. Oh yeah, with the Sweat down the field. I believe that, but I mean, if he's covering the flat, someone should be behind him. He shouldn't be chasing a guy. If he covers a flat and Sam Darnold runs to his side, he's right there. So I don't think, maybe, I mean, Sweat, he did have that effort on the Charbonnet touchdown where the Max Mellon, shout out to the DBs, Keecho Clark, Max Mellon, they had a hell of a game, just tackling wise. This is the best defensive back group tackling wise that we had in a while, and probably ever from what I remember. I mean, unless some of you older guys out there saw, Aeneas Williams back in the day. I didn't, but this is the best tackling group that we've had defensive back wise, and they play great. Max Mellon comes down at the 1 yard line, stuffs it, but Josh Sweat, he kind of just gives up on the play, thinks it's a touchdown. If he didn't give up, he could have got there and definitely made a play. I mean, maybe it's another San Francisco play where you get a 4th down stop and you hold tight, but he gives up, and Charbonnet, he gets stopped at the 1, but then the offensive lineman behind them give him an extra push and they get that touchdown. So maybe that's another play where Sweat kind of read it wrong. Talking to Ben Bimmons. Yeah, that Sweat thing should have gone on Joe Alt instead of MHJ. Yeah, I'm still a firm believer in Marvin. I don't think that was a bad choice. I believe that was a smart choice. That was a choice everyone would have made, no matter who you are. You would have taken Marv, especially with, at that point your receiver room looks like Michael Wilson, a day two pick. You have Greg Dortch. You have, that's pretty much it of notable guys. You needed a number one wide receiver, and this team loves big physical receivers. That's what exactly Marv is. Ohio State, you have the connection with Paris. It was just a no-brainer at that point. But I do believe, I'm kind of with this comment where, Cass Noel said, if you weren't going to use Marvin Harrison, if you weren't going to use receivers the way you use receivers, right? If you weren't going to change the offense to incorporate to have a young wide receiver, then why would you pick him, right? If you understood, hey, our offense is not predicated on a receiver, we could go get a tall receiver, a Zay Jones in free agency, and just save some money at receiver, save a draft pick at receiver, and then let's go get Joe Alt to help that right side, that right tackle spot. Then I would get it, because this offensive line sucks right now. This right tackle sucks. Jonah Williams isn't playing great. The whole right side of the line isn't playing great. If you had Joe Alt, Joe Alt's one of the best tackles in the game right now. I know he's playing left tackle. That would have been another conversation, having two left tackles with Paris and Joe Alt. But one of them could have played right tackle, and ultimately, he looked great playing against the game I saw was the week one game against the Eagles. He played great against the Eagles. I think I saw him the other time too playing against who did they play, the Broncos or the Chiefs. He played great against the Chiefs, right? If you weren't going to incorporate a number one receiver like how Drew Petzing isn't incorporating um, Marvin Harrison Jr. right now, then you should have just taken Joel. It hurts me to say it. I'm always going to be a believer in Marvin, but there's like a 20%, thing in my head where it's, if you knew you weren't going to use them, then why use the fourth overall pick on them? Why don't you trade back? Why don't you just take Joel? Why don't you do these other different things? I truly believe if we do change coordinators, hopefully, I think it's going to happen at the end of the year. This offense, you could tell by week 4, it's getting to Jonathan Gannon. Last week's press conference against San Francisco, he looked kind of irritated about the offensive questions. And ultimately, if history, repeats itself, history is going to repeat itself. It's going to show us trends and stuff like that. Petzing's going to go back to how he was the first 2 weeks, where run game, fourth quarter, it probably isn't going to happen again until maybe a little blip in another game. But this offense is going to keep on continuing to be like this. We're four quarters in, a fourth, kind of the way through the season, and you already know how this offense looks. The defense is going to be great. I believe top 5 to 10 defense, top 5, top 3 defense if the offense could get it going. But this offense, it is what it is at this point. There's no really changing it, maybe until the bye week, and that's week, I believe, 7 or 8. So I do believe at the end of the year we are going to change coordinators, because I believe that's how Gannon is going to run this thing. He's not going to fire someone major like that mid-season. So yeah, we get a new coordinator in here. I believe we're going to see how Marvin does. We're going to see how great he is. And at that point, hopefully, Kyler still believes in this team. If he's not on a different team, I don't know if you reset after the season, because it doesn't look like anything's going great right now. You're 2-2. And yeah, you're just hoping for the best. You're hoping kind of everything clicks and this offensive line plays great. But other than that, I just don't know what to say. Adams is one of the worst guards in football, and Brown and Williams are below average. Yeah, I've been saying it for the past 15 minutes. Adams, he has a 30 PFF grade. I don't even know you go that low. I know you go low, but that was for like an overall grade. That's low. Yeah, Evan Brown, Jonah Williams, they aren't playing great right now. Like I said, one easy fix is put Kelvin Beachum in at right tackle. He's not the best. You're not gonna play amazing with him, but it's gonna be a whole lot better than what Jonah Williams is giving you right now. Here, let me see what you guys said. Our receiver core is complete dog. Yeah, they're trash. Receiving core, I believe they are being affected by just the game script. I am in the sense of you want to get those guys going early. I think Tom Brady said it in, I don't know if it was with Colin Cowherd or on his own podcast, where he said, "Hey, if I notice, one quarter in, my number one receiver isn't getting the targets or isn't getting targeted, I'm going to him. I make sure he's involved." And I do believe that's true. I do believe getting in the rhythm is a real thing with running backs, with receivers. You have to have a good balance, a good mixture, but you can't expect, excuse me again, you can't expect Marvin or Michael Wilson or Zay Jones to just not play for 60 minutes, and then the one play, the one gotta have it play, you expect them to just be fresh and catch it. Yeah, they're professionals. They have to catch the ball. That's their job. Their job is to catch the ball. But at the same time, why don't you get the ball in their hands earlier? All right. You guys see Jamar Chase. He's getting the ball in his hands, first two plays, he gets the ball in his hand. Same thing with what's his name? Malik Neighbors. He's getting the ball in his hands. Every top receiver gets the ball in their hands early, and they get the ball going. Unless you're playing like, hey, you're playing like a prime, Patrick Peterson, prime Jalen Ramsey, a few years ago, where it's like this guy's going to be traveling and covering against him all game long. It's going to be tough to get him the ball. So, hey, let's do maybe some end arounds. Let's do some quick screens, whatever that looks like. You're able to make that happen. But I think you really got to get these receivers involved early and often. I'm not saying change the whole playbook where you're 60% pass, 40% run, and just flip it. I'm saying, hey, in the beginning, let's throw the ball a little bit. Get him in a quick little slant, maybe a quick little screen, maybe a little end around. Just get the ball in his hands so he feels comfortable and kind of settles in. I don't know if you guys played football before, but it's like kind of those beginning. I mean, I've always had them beginning game jitters, or just like, hey, I just got to hit someone, or I just got to catch the ball, or I just got to run the ball, right? Those kind of, after that happens, after the first hit, after the first kind of where you're able to catch the ball, make a few guys miss, or you're able to run the ball, run through the tackles, you get hit, you feel good after that. You're kind of relaxed, you're mellow, you're like, you're tensed up because it's a game, right? You're nervous for the game, you're prepared, you want to be all in, and after that, you take a breath, everything feels good, and you're able to play your game, you're able to keep on going. If that doesn't happen until the third quarter, you're just like, dang, you're just out there doing cardio. I don't think that's a great thing. So I think our receivers, they do have stuff to work on. They are a young group outside of Zay Jones. Greg Dortch, he's I think like 27, 20, around there. But Marv, second year guy, Michael Wilson, third year guy. They are a young group. Those are your top two receivers. Trey McBride, he's still a young guy too. He just got paid. He's what, 24, 25. He's a young guy. You just got to get them going early, and I think that's part of coaching, where you have to get your guys going early. Let's see what else you guys said. Watched live, and I knew we will lose with this dumb kickoff. Yeah, that kickoff, Elmo, it was crazy. In hindsight, it's probably, I mean, if you obviously with like any big play like that, like any going for a fourth down or whatever it is, if it happens, any trick play, if it happens, great. You look like the smartest guy on the field. If it doesn't happen, you look like the dumbest guy on the field. Where it's like, how come you didn't just kick the field goal? Why are you trying to do a trick play? Why are you trying to do the flea flicker? That's just, if it works, you look like the smartest guy in the room. But if it doesn't work, you look like an idiot. Um, and yeah, that's comes with the territory of going for it. Same thing happened with the Lions in the playoffs last year, where all year praising Dan Campbell, praising their offensive coordinator. Hey, they're always going for it. They're throwing to your tackles, they're throwing to your tight ends. Flea flickers here, this and that. But then the one time it doesn't happen. In the divisional game, where you're just like, hey, let's do all these trick plays, and you don't get a field goal. You're in field goal range. You don't kick the field goal because you want to go for it on fourth down, and that was ultimately comes back and kicks you in the butt later on. So that's what that's the game you got to live. Um, Ben Bimmons, keep Buddha as far away from coverage as you can. Yeah, these Buddha's just, you can't get him in coverage. I've been saying it, and I think he tweeted at me last year too, middle of the season, where he talked to me saying, I don't know, basically, what every athlete pretty much says whenever they clap back against a fan. You don't know what we're doing. You never played this. You never played that. This and that. But you could tell when Buddha's in coverage. I mean, he's gotten a lot better with Drew Petzing. I mean, not Drew Petzing, with Nick Rallis and Jonathan Gannon. He's gotten a lot better with them, but ultimately he's still just a liability in coverage. It is what it is. He's 8 years into his career. He is what he is. He's a box safety. He's a great box safety. I'll give him that. He's an all-pro box safety, but in coverage, he doesn't take the ball away. He has maybe 4 career interceptions in 8 years. He gets one every other year. He had two, that one year, that one last Cliff year, but outside of that, he's pretty much just is a cone in the backfield. Hopefully, we'll be the Titans. I mean, the way hey, Titans are looking solid. I mean, if we kept a close game against Spencer Rattler and that crappy Saints team, and I don't know about the Titans. I think that's a road game. I don't know if it's a road or home game. I don't remember at this point, but that doesn't look too hot. That doesn't look too great right now. Who else? What was Josh Sweat covering? Yeah, covering nothing, man. He just jumped. He didn't even try to go for the ball. He was running backwards, saw the ball in the air, jumped like if he was about to catch it, but the ball was maybe 2 yards in front of him. He didn't try and swat it, didn't try and do anything. He just freaked out. He just got scared. Got to have better design plays on third. We have Murray just scrambling around and throwing it away. Yeah, that goes with what I was saying before, with what Kurt Warner said. Like I said on PHNX, if you guys can go watch that, I think he does a really good breakdown on just quarterbacking in general and play calling in general. Yeah, Kyler, he can. I think that's the other part of having a great athletic quarterback too, where hey, he drops back, he's quick in his drop back, he's quick in general. Yeah, he's a fast guy. He's quick in his drop back. He sees the play maybe not developing. He knows where the defense is going to be, and instead of maybe waiting for it in the pocket, he tries to make a bigger play. He tries to buys himself time. Maybe runs out, and that just doesn't work sometimes. Where he maybe goes through the play too quick, and the play might be there for a slight window, an NFL window, but he's already scrambling. Maybe the offensive line too isn't helping him, where he's just like, man, I'm just getting pressure. I get the ball snapped to me. I drop back my 3 steps and I see, maybe it's open. Let me see. But then you have a guy, that sense, that right side. You're just like, man, that guy is gonna attack me. I got to move out the way. Then you have your eyes down. You're trying to read the rushes where you could get out and maybe make a positive out of nothing. So that's kind of the yin and the yang with having a great athletic quarterback like Murray, where a taller guy maybe just sits in the pocket. He's gonna get hit, but F it, he'll get hit. But Kyler, not even just because he's shorter, just he's an athletic guy. He's trying to make a play out of nothing. So I think that's kind of a reason why. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have anything, like I said, feel free to DM me. Feel free to leave a comment. If you guys have anything else that you want me to talk about, leave a comment in the YouTube. If you guys can, go subscribe to my YouTube. That's where I'm on right now. That's the main source I'm going off of right now. So if you guys can, same thing, just search up Cardinals Update or search up, I believe on Twitter, if you guys click the live, it should go to my YouTube. So if you guys do, like the stuff like that, I'm trying to hopefully at least at the end of every game do a post-game kind of recap for you guys so we can all talk about it, so we could, as Cardinals fans, just huddle up and cry about it, get disappointed about it. Other than that, I do appreciate you guys, hanging with me, everyone from Instagram, all the people I have on Twitter. You guys are amazing. You guys are great. So yeah, any other comments before? Okay, as Heel, a few before we leave. He says, I don't want to be negative, but I love this team. I just hope we win the next one, and we really need to make K1 and Marv connect. Yeah, that's one of the main things, finding their connection too. With Kyler, I don't think it's a Kyler problem. Like I said, I think it's maybe a lot on Marv's plate. When Kyler checks, everyone else understands what's going on besides Marv. Like you guys saw in the, I believe it was the second quarter, Murray checks out of a play. He calls can, checks out. They're going to the second play. Marv is running maybe a go route, whatever it is, but Kyler thought he was going to run a comeback, or he was run a quick out, back shoulder fade. He throws it, no one's there. Marv is maybe 10 yards down the field, and it's just a miscommunication. I feel like that happens way too much. Maybe they have Marv doing too much. I don't think this offense is too complex because Michael Wilson, he looks like he always knows what's going on. Trey McBride, obviously, whenever something happens, Trey McBride is just on it. And maybe he's just, getting more comfortable in the offense. Maybe just understanding the offense. Maybe it's Marv just getting to his own head where he knows that he's like, dang, that's what it is. But in that moment right there, he's just thinking way too much. So you never know what it is. Um, it could be a whole bunch of things. I do believe Kyler is doing great in terms of controlling the offense. The offensive line has to play better. I can't say it enough. They have to play so much better. And then ultimately, they have to understand, hey, when I'm calling this, when I'm calling check, when I'm calling Wally, when I'm calling whatever it is, you got to do this. Or I want you to be here. I want you to do this. And he's probably saying that to him. I don't doubt it. But at the same time, they have to just get on the same page. They have 10 days before the next game. They have about 3 days from before the report back on Monday. Take this weekend and really, you just got to dive through the playbook and understand, go through situations and understand, hey, this is what I got to do. This is what you got to do. This is how we fix this. Hopefully they do that. I don't know. They have a great relationship, right? They're great off the field. They just got to understand on the field in these different situations, this down and distance, this situation in the game. You gotta, hey, if I'm checking this, if I'm checking Waggle, you gotta go do this. So that's something that they do have to fix, and I think it just happens. I have no idea what it is. It could be. I think it's just too much in their head because I do believe in Marv. I don't think he's not understanding the playbook. I believe maybe you could probably take less. You could take more off of his plate, give him less. Hey, you got to focus on boom, boom, boom. That's it. That's how you got to focus on. Instead of you got to do boom, 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 boom. But then if this doesn't happen, you got to do doom, doom, boom. You got to, instead of have these different situations. So as offensive coordinator, as the coach, you got to see, hey, maybe he's not getting all this. Let me take a little bit off of him. Let me get Michael Wilson in that role, and then get Marv in that wide receiver 2 role. Whatever it is, he's still out there. He's still making plays, but it's not as much in his plate. So maybe you could do something like that. Cardinals hurt themselves too much with sacks and incompletions. Yeah, they let up 6 sacks back to the offensive line. They let up 6 sacks. You can't win a game going like that. This is a top 5 to 10 Seattle defense. So top 5 to 10 defense, bad O-line, it's not going to mix well. So ultimately, I think, Kyler kind of did run into some of those sacks too, where maybe if he would have stepped up a little bit more, he could have, saved a sack or two. But ultimately, 6 sacks is not going to win you the game. The turnover battle, you didn't win it this week, and that's what ultimately lost the game. I think time possession too. I don't think you won time possession. I could look that up right here. I can't even look it up right now. That's in their team stats. Here, give me a little bit. Let me look at it. Let me look at this. Yeah, team stats. Cardinals again didn't hit the total 300 total yards. They had 253 total yards. They haven't had a 300 total yard offensive game this whole season, 4 games in, which means the offense sucks. Cardinals had 2 turnovers. Seattle won that. Let's see. Cardinals had 7 penalties. I feel like as soon as we pass the 50, they're always shooting themselves in the foot. It's either a holding penalty. It's either offside. Something has to happen. Or they can't get the playoff in time. They have to call a timeout or delay a game. Something has to happen always as soon as we get into like within close to field goal range. Boom, 5-10 yards back. That's a different conversation. We could go about that another time. Time possession, it wasn't too bad. I mean, yeah, 5 minutes. Cardinals had 27 minutes. Seattle has 32 minutes. Yeah, not good at all. You usually got to be better as an offense. Time possession doesn't really mean anything because you won it the past 3 weeks against the teams, and 2 weeks you won it because I think they were a bad roster, and 1 week you didn't because you just didn't have a good offense, right? You weren't able to put points up on the board. Yeah, you can hold the ball as long as you can, but if you're not putting points on the board, then that's the name of the game. At least have 1 point more than the other person by the end of the game, and you're just not able to do that as an offense. Any more Melton opinions? He played. He didn't play good. He played solid. I do believe our DBs played great in the run game. He did as best he could. Like I said before, he's our third or fourth corner. You have Garrett Williams, you have Will Johnson, and then I think third corner I'd give it to Max Melton because Sean Murphy Bunting, he wasn't going to be on this team. You guys knew that back. We knew this back in before the draft. So he's your third corner, having to play up as the number one corner, which isn't something that Starling Thomas. My bad. He is a fourth corner. You have Starling Thomas, who would have played starting corner. Garrett Williams, who would have played the slot. Will Johnson would have played the opposite corner. Yeah, he's the fourth corner. So, yeah, he's the fourth corner playing as a number one corner, which, if you have the fourth quarterback playing as your fourth string isn't going to be as best as your number one string as your starting guy. He played as best as he could. Outside of that one deep pass at the end of the game to Jackson Smith, I think overall he held his own. He played solid. He played great. There's two plays that kind of were just bad on his part, where it was the last drive for Seattle where they threw it into Jackson Smith and he got the toe tap. He got it inbounds and he caught it and then went out of bounds. That was tough on Max Melton. Also, the one deep play side of the field where he just got caught because same thing. Jackson Smith, he ran a great route. Hats off to him. He ran a great route where he was going up, kind of stuttered, like he was about to curl back in, and then just he accelerated out. And Max Melton is a fast guy, right? He's an athletic freak. He just wasn't able to catch up because he got caught flat-footed. And when one guy's running, you're flat-footed, he runs right by you. You're supposed to stick and go. Sam Darnold sees it. He just throws it up and hits him in stride. It's just, a great ball, great route. And just unfortunately, you got caught with your eyes in the backfield instead of watching your receiver. So, unfortunately, those are two plays that kind of hurt the Cardinals a lot. And it was on Max Melton. But other than that, he played a great game. He played a solid game. He played it as best as you could probably ask for. Hopefully, more time, he develops better. And, he's able to, in that kind of Jackson Smith where he kind of broke down and then left, hopefully he stays on his receiver more. But other than that, he played solid throughout the whole game. Keitrell Clark, same thing. He, played a hell of a game. I'm excited to see tomorrow his PFF score. Hopefully it's in the, I don't know. Hopefully it's a good grade. Hopefully they don't grade him too horrible on the coverage. I don't know how the coverage look because, you can only see a little bit through the broadcast. Hopefully I'll be able to watch the all 22 right now. But yeah, it's already 12. I've been live for an hour. It's already 12:30. 12:13. So we'll just finish these comments up and then I'll go and get off. Hopefully you guys go to sleep. You guys have work or school tomorrow. Yeah. So Keitrell Clark played great. Excited to see how he graded out. I've always been a believer of him. I know going into the season, we were talking about, hey, is Keitrell Clark maybe going to be cut? Jonathan Gannon said that's his baby. He's from Cincinnati, I believe Cincinnati or Louisville. He's from Louisville. And he played great. Yeah, amazing in the run game. All these DBs can tackle. They play great. Rabbit, he played solid too from what I've seen. Jalen Thompson, he struggles a little bit because he is a safety. He struggles a little bit in man-to-man when he is in the slot. But he's the next best guy you have in the slot. I do not want to see Budda Baker in the slot. Please do not give me Budda Baker in the slot. I'd rather have anyone else. Put whatever fifth, sixth string corner in that slot. Do not put Budda Baker in that slot. Let him be near the linebackers, be near the ball, be near the line of scrimmage. Do not put him in coverage. Do not put him deep. Anywhere past 10 yards, get Budda Baker. I don't want to see Budda Baker past 10 yards. Keep him within 10. Keep him at the line of scrimmage and let him, read the play and go make a tackle. That's what he's best at. He's best at, hey, run, boom, let me go through these guards and let me go make a play. Or screen pass, let me go blow up that screen pass. He knows what's going to happen. It's just in coverage, he just panics and he makes a stupid play. I'm not trying to be mean, but it is what it is. You think this offense keeping this defense on the field consistently is causing a lot of the injuries on defense? Shit's frustrating. Jeremy, yeah, I think ultimately I don't think it's causing these injuries. I just think unfortunately, you had um, Will Johnson go out where I forgot what play it was, but he kind of hurt his abdomen or his groin, his hip, where it would just a play in the air. He tried to make a play, he just came down awkwardly. Garrett Williams, him and Buda Baker just crashed into the guy at the end zone against whoever we played week 2. I forgot who we played week 2. The Panthers. Yeah, played just freak plays. I don't think that's why the injuries happen. Um, I do believe the offense keeping this defense on the field a lot is having them break down at the end of the game, where instead of being fresh, they're maybe letting up a little bit of points. I mean, even then, the defense is just giving up 20 points. Like we go back through these games right now. Um, Here, let me go through the Arizona's. They're not letting up points. They Saints 13 points, Panthers 22 points, 49ers 16 points, Seattle 23 points. They're not letting a whole lot of points up on the board. So this defense is playing great. I think you just need Darius Robinson to play better. Today he played solid. He got a sack. Last week, I think he's getting into his role, right? He's slowly but surely he's coming along. So hopefully he's able to keep on building and building. Hopefully next week or the week after you get Walter Nolan back, his 4 game sitting out 4 games from PUP is going to be up. We're already in week 4, so hopefully he could get back rolling again. You have a good little rotation instead of having Calais Campbell out for more snaps than what you need him for. You need him for those. You needed to save his energy for those big gotta have it plays. And yeah, hopefully someone steps up opposite of Josh Sweat. Whether it's Jordan Birch, I think I saw someone talk about BJ Ojolari. I just say if he comes back, great. If he doesn't, I just don't even think about him right now at this point, where we haven't heard anything from him. He said he's still injured. There was no chance of him coming back in training camp. There was no chance of him coming back, early in the season. At this point, you just let him recover fully. Who knows what really happened with his knee? Who knows what happened with the surgery? It is, I think, his second knee surgery. I think he had one in LSU. He had one here. You just want him to come back and be healthy. I think that's the main thing for him. Just come back, let him take all the time he needs to get that knee fully healthy, not 80%, and let's come back and make a play. That's just get him healthy this year, whether he plays one game, whether he plays, second half of the season. You just want him to come back healthy. And then hopefully next year you have a good little tandem with Josh Sweat on one side and BJ Ojolari on the other side, or maybe get another pass rusher. So yeah, I think that's that kind of helps this defense. And then Will Johnson coming back, he's gonna go into his corner 1 spot where he belongs. Max Mellon go back to corner 2, and that'll be a whole lot better. Everyone just fits so perfectly in that regard. Debo Z, Melton and Clark opinion. I think Clark did great and Melton was iffy. What's your opinion? Just talk about them. I think I'm a little behind in these comments, so hopefully you got the answers you did. If you didn't, go ahead and comment again. And you want me to kind of go more into it. Clint, I'm not going to say the rest of that username. Crazy username. But Clint, Kyler sucks, has been sucking at setting protections all season, not completely the line's fault. Like I said, I do believe Kyler Murray does have some fault. I don't think he's the main guy. If this is your first time joining, like I said before, I believe if it's, I believe it's 40% Drew Petzing. He has a big say into what's going on in this offense, into coaching. He's a coach. He should be able to get these guys ready to play every single Sunday on the offensive side of the ball. So I believe, coaching does a big thing. He's about 40% of the problem. Next up, I'd give it about 30% this offensive line, where they're just not good. This interior offensive line isn't great. Protection has been iffy, like Clint says. 20%, or yeah, 40, 30, 10%, or yeah, 20% is going to be Kyler Murray. I think, he checks down too much a little bit, where he could stand in the pocket and make a play. We know he can stand in the pocket. We've seen him do it before. Other than that, going too quick through his reads. Like I said, Kurt Warner had a good little breakdown of how these shotgun quarterbacks, these quick quarterbacks, can kind of just go through quickly and just have, hey, is it there? It's not there. Let me go scramble. So 20% on Kyler, and the 10% is on receivers. Um, yeah, they're just have to understand the playbook better. Marv, understand catching better, and it's a whole receiver group as a whole, and just overall, just getting open because you guys see that advanced stats. I could put it out there, on Twitter, stuff like that, where these advanced analytics, they show, hey, these receivers and the Cardinals are not getting separation. They're not. They're just not getting separation, and ultimately, as receivers, your main thing is getting open and catching the ball. So that's why it's on them. I don't think it's completely on them. I think it's, the rhythm in this offense. They should get the ball earlier and get the ball going more. But, they do have problems with the drops. Um, yeah, DB Zoe. I'm not going to read that one. He said, okay, you guys are just talking to each other at that point. You guys are arguing against each other. I'm not going to get in that. Noah 28. Rooting for this team is so mentally draining. I feel like we can blame coaching or players, but I believe it all starts with our owner not doing anything to help as well. Yeah, I do believe there is a set of, hey, this culture just sucks, and that starts from the owner down. I do believe the culture is changing. I don't think it's anything crazy. I do believe it's going to take a little bit. It's not going to change in 3 years because obviously you have Bidwell as your owner, right? He's a top guy. He's the main guy. He's the owner. He's the president. He's the top main guy, and excuse me, he's the top main guy, and it trickles down from them. I think he is outside of the football stuff. He's not hands on like he was with Steve Keim. He's not meddling with the football stuff, which is great. Monty Ossenfort says it. Jonathan Gannon says it. He's not. They're not doing anything in terms of, hey, Michael Bidwell can do everything, operational wise, and the football part, it's all about Monty Ossenfort, Dave Sears, Jonathan Gannon. They're all in collection on the football side. So I do believe it is changing. But yeah, it's just tough to have a big change like that in so few years. I do believe having a president, if Michael Bidwell kind of, relinquishes some of the power and goes for a team president, I feel like that could help change the culture a little bit, change the identity, and he could be one of those owners that's just real hands off and just, hey, I own the Cardinals, but this is the other stuff I'm working on. This is the other stuff I'm doing. I'm trying to promote the team instead of managing the team. So he could be in a way like that. A team president, like I said, could help. And it just, overall, I think it's not him. It's just, it's going to take a little bit. I know it's frustrating to hear that, but it is going to take a little bit for this team to start, understanding, hey, we can win games. I think there's a TikTok about who was it? Anquan Bolding when he first came to the Cardinals. That was a completely different team, 20 odd years ago. And he said that he wanted to go to the playoffs. His rookie year, he said, I want to go to the playoffs. And everyone kind of in the media room kind of, snarkled and kind of made a joke about it. And he was serious. And I don't think that's how the team is now. I don't think that's how, I think for the most part, we're getting new people in as Cardinals reporters. And I think that's doing a great job. Hopefully, I'm in there maybe someday. And they're doing a good job of asking questions, these new younger reporters, which is great. You guys see it on Twitter where it's like, hey, this person asked, some pretty tough questions. And unfortunately, with the PR stuff from the Cardinals, you can never get too crazy because if you get too, I'm not saying the Cardinals do this, but I'm saying, it has happened before with teams in general where you're maybe asking too many tough questions and it's like, hey, I'm not allowed back into the press conferences. So you do have to, run a tight line, walk a tight line in those press conferences. But I think they're doing a great job of saying tough questions, and I think Gannon is doing a good job of reflecting and answering back some of those questions. So ultimately, I think Gannon's a great leader. He's a great tone setter. Same thing with Ossenfort. Same thing with Dave Sears. But nothing's gonna change if you don't win, right? This all goes down the drain if you don't win. Winning's the cure all for everything, right? You guys saw in the most recent dynasty, the Patriots, right? The Patriots, Bill Belichick ran everything. He ran it his way. People liked it, people don't, but he was winning. They were winning Super Bowls. But Tom Brady leaves, team gets older, roster gets older. um, um, Belichick gets older, and ultimately, then little things start coming up where it's like, hey, this team kind of sucks. You're not winning. Roster sucks. We can't just believe in you anymore. And that's ultimately why they kind of parted ways there. Um, and you guys see, it just happens. Winning cures all. I'm sure if, whatever team, if, the Chiefs start losing again and they go on a pretty bad streak, there's going to be questions coming out about Andy Reid, questions coming about Travis Kelce, questions coming about, I think Brett Veach is their GM or their owner, something like that, or the Hunt family. It's gonna happen like that too. So winning cures all. If you're able to win, no one's gonna say anything. So that's ultimately what I think. It happens with this team. You just gotta start winning, and that's it's easier said than done. But other teams, they have winning streaks, winning blips. So hopefully you're able to catch it by catch those winning streaks and go around with it. I do believe Kyler is a quarterback that can help us with those wins. I don't think he's going to be a superstar like maybe Josh Allen, where he's the main reason why you're going to win, but he could definitely get you there. He gets you in playoffs. He gets you winning seasons. I've seen it. I do believe into it. You just got to get, the pieces right around him. He's not, like I said, he's not a top 10 guy. He's maybe closer to a top 15 than a top 10, but you are able to win with him. I truly believe that. With his athleticism, he's a top, 3 athlete of quarterback in the NFL. He has a great deep ball. He could throw the ball. He has amazing accuracy. He's always near that 70% mark in terms of accuracy for the season. So if he's able to get that going, then great. But if not, you can still win, despite him. I don't think he's causing much turnovers. Um, I still can't get over running a flea flicker against an all-out blitz. I mean, you can't tell they're going to do an all-out blitz but you had a momentum going. You're passing great. You're running great. I don't know why you have a flea flicker at that moment. It just seems so out of whack, so out of rhythm. Where we were running, we're driving the ball great, and then you kind of stop momentum with that. I know Gannon doesn't believe in momentum, but I'm a big believer in momentum. I do understand. I think whatever whether it's momentum, whether it's confidence, whether it's positive self-talk. I believe those things do have an effect on your mental, and if you're able to have momentum on your side as a team, I feel like you play better, right? Culture is a big thing. Even though you can't measure culture, you could see it, you could feel it. Same thing with momentum. Same thing with confidence. You could see it, you could feel it. So I don't think obviously you can't see it, it's a blitz, but it just killed the momentum right there, and that's just that just hurt your drive in general. Yeah, I hear you, man. These defense look great, and will more than likely get better as everyone heals up. But that issue with Mac this game, plus apparently D-Rob had a chest injury. Yeah, Mac, he um, went out in the game, but he finished the game. So he I don't know if it was an ankle. I think it was an ankle. What they said it was in the broadcast, but he came back in the game. He should be good. D-Rob, I don't know what happened to him. I didn't see. I think he got injured one of the last plays of the game. Um, Calais Campbell was back in there at the end of the game too. I think he had maybe like a stinger, like a shoulder injury. He should be good. I mean, these guys are getting 10 days off from the next game, so we should be healthy. Hopefully, Will Johnson comes back too. He's going to be a big piece in this, where everyone just kind of falls, instead of playing up and kind of just playing a little too much. They're going to play, in their positions and where they should be. Um, just think the fatigue the defense is dealing with due to how often the offense is getting taken out the field, especially in the first half. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I talked about too, where this offense, especially in the middle of the game, in the second quarter, third quarter, they just getting off way too quick in the field. You're supposed to have drives, give your defense a break, but also, have long drives, have scoring drives, give your defense time to catch their breath instead of, hey, they made a stop. Maybe they made a stop on fourth down. Boom. They get out the field. Cardinals offense takes over off the possessions. They're right there, maybe at the 40, 3 and out. They punt it. And then it's like, damn, I barely had, as a defensive player, you guys, I don't know if you guys know, but you're back there. Your position coach, maybe your D coordinator is calling all the starters up, and they're just talking, hey, this is what we gotta do. This is what we gotta do. And then all of a sudden, you're just like, dang, interception. Damn, they're punting it 3 and out. Then you're just like, you grab your helmet, put it back on, you're running back on the field, you're ready because you hear, hey, defense ready, defense get ready, defense get up, and that small coaching that goes out throughout the game kind of get throws out the window. You understand some of the stuff, but you're just like, dang, gotta go back in the field. Let me get my water. Let me get some oxygen. Um, yeah, that's what kind of hurts them right there. Do you think here? Let me guess on a drink. Do we think? Do you think we move on from Kyler? Um, Ultimately, it depends how the season ends. I don't want to because, like I said, I do believe Kyler is someone that we can win with. I don't think he's someone that's hurting us right now, but I do understand where if we keep on losing at the end of the season, we just got to restart. That's an unfortunate reality. If we do keep on losing, you're gonna have to restart. Kyler's 27, 28. This is probably his peak right now. If you could trade him, hopefully into the AFC, maybe do right by Kyler, trade him to a good team, and see where he is. But ultimately, I don't want to move off of him because I feel like we can still win with him. I believe if we get another offensive coordinator, I believe this whole offense wakes up. We have great playmakers. We have a great tight end. We have great running backs. Fix the offensive line maybe here and there. Will Hernandez probably comes back better next year. He's fully healthy at that point. And I think ultimately you could win with Kyler. I do believe that he's amazingly accurate. If he wasn't accurate, then maybe it's a different story. But he's accurate. He's still an athlete. He's a great, I believe he's a generational athlete. I'm not saying generational quarterback. I'm not saying anything like that. But he's a generational athlete where I feel like this could last, a good, well into his 30s. I'm not saying like 34, 35, but I'm saying, 31, 32, it's not going to be a crazy fall off. He can still play the position. So I don't think we can move off of Kyler. I feel like if we move off of Kyler, then this season probably went bad. And you're looking in the draft for another quarterback, maybe a Drew Aller, maybe a Lenore Sellers, whatever you guys think. Arch, hopefully if he, whatever you guys say about Arch, I do believe he's going to go, top, 5 to 10 pick. Hopefully you're not in the 5 to 10 range, but you can maybe get someone like that. Maybe get a developmental quarterback where it's like, hey, someone so and so, let's get you. You have everything that we need: tall, fast, physical, great arm, whatever that is, and sit behind Kyler. See what you can learn behind Kyler. Not someone in the 6th, 7th round like a Clayton Tune, but someone maybe in the 2nd and 3rd round maybe pushes Kyler a little bit more, and see where that goes. Hopefully that's what it is. Jeremy, defense full of dogs though. Big fan of Mac. You enjoy your night though, G. Yeah, Mac Wilson. He's been balling out this whole game. He this whole season. He's been great. Perfect addition. He's probably exactly what you picture for in this linebacker spot. Someone who's big, fast, physical, and aggressive. Everything that John Gannon kind of talks about for his defense. I think Kaiser last year was just a little bit slower than what they would hope. Great, in terms of understanding the position, understanding where the defense should be at. But in terms of maybe the pass game, in the run game, just getting to the guy and blowing something up, maybe he wasn't too much there. Mac Wilson is a bigger guy. I think Kaiser's 6 foot, 6'1", like 210, 215. Kaiser, and then Max, or maybe 220. Who knows? Mac Wilson's 6'2", 6'3", about like 250. Bigger guy, but he's moving crazy athletically. So he's playing great. Drew will forever hold this offense back from its full potential. I unfortunately I do believe that. There's nothing in terms of what we've seen from Drew Petzing as a coordinator, as a play caller, as a coach, that makes you believe, hey, we could be this great offense. In that first year, I don't know if he was maybe coaching for his career, trying to show off, but that first year he played great. I mean, the first year he coached great. He was, hey, I was able to have Josh Dobbs played great. We beat the Cowboys. We had great, we had Michael Wilson going out for 100 yards or for multiple touchdowns. We had, all these different receivers, going great. And then that first year when Kyler came back, we had shots. We were going down the field. I feel like every year we're getting just worse. That first year with Josh Dobbs, it was great. Second year, yeah, Kyler came back. We were playing great. And the other year, it's like, okay, what's changed? Maybe we have Marv now. This year, we're just like, man, like what is going on? It just doesn't look like the same. So who knows what it is? It could be anything, but I do believe this offense is just regressing from where we started, 3, 4 years ago to where we're at now. Hopefully something clicks with this fourth quarter where it's like, hey, this is what my team likes to do. If I'm Drew Petzing, I'm thinking, hey, this is what my team is good at. I don't know if it was Kyler maybe audibling out of some things, or Kyler just, trusting his guys and just, making stuff happen. But hey, whatever we have in that fourth quarter, let's try and see what we have and try to expand that for the whole game. So hopefully he takes this weekend and the rest of the season to figure that out. Not the rest of the season. He takes this weekend to figure it out for the rest of the season. But yeah, I hope that's what happens. Play calling sucks. I believe you. Teak or Casey, T Casey. I doubt the Chiefs will lose. They're just getting started. Yeah, who knows? They could be like the Patriots of old where, dang, how far back am I? I'm not that far back. Um, yeah, hope. I mean, maybe they're the Patriots of old where they kind of start off slow and build it up as the year goes on. But I mean, as long as they have Mahomes, I don't believe they'll be bad. It's just, if they start, let's say, in a reality where they start losing and they don't win as many games, they're not in the playoffs, then people are going to start questioning Andy Reid. It happened in Philadelphia. They played great. They started kind of losing a little bit. That's how Andy Reid got out of there. So it just you got to win the league. You got to win, and that ultimately cures all. Once you stop winning, no matter how great of a coach you are, like Bill Belichick or like Nick Saban. Nick Saban lost 2 games, and they wanted his ass out of Alabama. So in football, that's how it is. You only have 17 opportunities to show out, and if you don't show out, then you're gone. And that's great about this league. You don't have like the 76ers of trust the process, right? We're losing, but hey, we're gonna be better eventually. You kind of had that with the Cardinals 2, 3 years ago, where it's like, hey, trust the process. We're getting rid of all the bad contracts, all the bad people, and we're bringing in our guys. But ultimately, that only lasts maybe a year, and that's with the new regime. We've had the same regime for 3, 4 years already, and I don't think that's really changing right now. We could easily be 4-0 though. We can. It's Yeah, we can. Obviously, 2-0. We played tough against those, I would say, worst teams, but at the end, we gotta just play better against San Francisco. If you're able to just play better defense or just play better offense, just get one more score, you win the game, right? Instead of these interceptions, you win. Same with Seattle. Instead of those 2 early interceptions where maybe one didn't count for a score right away, but they got better field position because it was a fumble, or the other one they scored points off of the other interception, or you're just not playing great offense. You can't pass the 40-yard line. So little things like that, or maybe getting field goals here and there. I know people don't want to see it, but field goals are points, and you need more points. But ultimately, you just got to play better offense. The defense, you get players back healthy, people are going to play better. Um, I do agree that our offensive play calling is horrible. Yeah, Drew Petzing he's regressed since year one. Jordan says, for me, bro, I know it probably wouldn't happen, but Joe Burrow would be a great QB in Arizona. Yeah, Joe Burrow's locked in. He's locked in Cincy. Can't really say much for that. Hopefully, that you find another maybe Joe Burrow in the draft, if that comes to it. I think ultimately, no matter what, you're drafting a quarterback this draft season. So I know it's way too early talking about the draft, but maybe a second round guy, third round guy. I do believe you're going to draft a quarterback early, because outside of Kyler's going to be here, Jacoby Brissett here for next year. Outside of that, your quarterback 3, you don't want it to be Clayton Tune. He played horrible in the preseason. Give me a young guy. Give me someone from the draft. You're going to draft someone this year. I think in that day 2, look out. Whoever's in that day 2, maybe you're going to draft someone. Sorry guys, I was at the game. I'm bad luck. You know, eh, you're not bad luck, man. It's just Drew Petzing. Drew Petzing is just not calling this offense the way it should be called, and it's just bringing this whole team down. So that's all the comments I have from Instagram. We got any people from Twitter that want to say something? I got to figure out that chat. Here, let me see if I could. Um, yeah. Oh, the chat. Let me see. Let me type in something for my Twitter people. Does that pop up? Let me see. Let me wait a little bit for my Twitter people. Maybe, yeah, who knows? Maybe let's see. Yeah. So just want to shout out, all the people on Instagram. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you guys, staying up with me until 1 in the morning, 12:40 here in Arizona. For some of you guys, maybe on the East Coast, it's well past one. Maybe some of you guys, in California, it's about the same time, I think. So appreciate all you guys showing up. If you guys do have any questions, want to talk more about Cardinals football, like I said, for my streaming schedule, hopefully, definitely after every game, if the live stream works. Last week it just wasn't working. I wasn't able to figure it out. Had to quit it, re-download it, do all that, boring stuff. But other than that, hopefully I'll be streaming on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you guys can find me. I'll be streaming there. And if you guys have any questions, I'd say the easiest way to probably reach me is Twitter or YouTube, where you just drop a comment at the end of the video, or drop a comment on the chat, and we're able to see it. I'm able to see it. Instagram, hopefully do something a little bit more with the live stream. Hopefully I can see you guys' comments kind of in real time. Yeah, with my Twitter people, appreciate all you guys. We'll be back next Sunday, 10 days. I might do a little stream this weekend if you guys want to. DM me, let me know if you guys want to talk about whatever games, or just talk about, more, maybe not right after the game. Let the game settle for a little bit, and let's see what's happening from there. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll go ahead and see you later.